A low, tremulous groan cut through the stillness of the early morning. The ranger froze, scanning the scrubland. There, among the thorn bushes and dry grass, lay a lioness, her flanks swollen and heavy, her eyes half-closed. Her breathing was shallow, ragged, as though each inhale required a small act of will. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of dust and wildflowers. Birds had fallen silent, and even the wind seemed to pause, brushing lightly across the plains. The lioness shifted, a soft moan escaping her, and for a moment, the ranger feared she might not rise again. He approached slowly, lowering himself to the ground so as not to appear threatening. "Easy, it's okay," he murmured, voice barely above a whisper. The lioness flinched, but did not flee. She was exhausted, yet her golden eyes followed him with a wary intelligence. As he knelt beside her, the ranger noticed the telltale curve of her abdomen. Life, fragile and insistent, pressed against her belly. She was pregnant. The realization struck him with both awe and urgency. This was not just a rescue, it was a delicate act of stewardship. He scanned the surrounding area. The pride was nowhere in sight. Perhaps they were hunting, or perhaps, sensing danger, had withdrawn. The lioness lifted her head slightly, her ears swiveling as though catching a sound beyond human perception. Every muscle in her body was taut with discomfort, yet a quiet dignity remained. Gently, the ranger eased a blanket from his pack, laying it beneath her to shield her from the rough ground. He worked slowly, speaking in soft murmurs, offering nothing but presence and care. She flinched at first but gradually allowed him closer. Each careful movement became a silent dialogue, an exchange built on patience rather than force. Hours passed in the rhythm of small gestures, repositioning her legs, dampening the dust on her coat, murmuring encouragements. The sun climbed higher, spilling golden light across the plains, highlighting the sheen of her fur and the subtle tremor of her muscles. Suddenly, a rustle from the tree line drew his attention. The pride had returned. But they did not charge or snarl, they circled at a cautious distance, their eyes bright with curiosity and concern. The lioness let out a soft chuff, and the others responded in kind. For a tense moment, human and animal shared a mutual recognition of trust and restraint. Then, without warning, a small miracle, the first signs of labor. The lioness tensed, moaned, and then, guided by instinct and his careful encouragement, gave birth to a tiny, trembling cub. The ranger's heart leapt at the sight of new life. The cub nuzzled its mother, and she responded with gentle nudges, protective and tender. The pride relaxed, forming a silent circle around them, a quiet acknowledgement of survival and continuity. The ranger stayed long enough to ensure the lioness and her cub were stable. He did not linger in celebration or intrusion. Slowly, he stepped back, feeling the weight of the morning in his chest. The sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the savannah in warm hues, and the lioness rose, nudging her newborn, moving with deliberate grace back toward her pride. As the humans watched from a distance, the wind carried away the echoes of soft roars and chirps. Life, fragile and fierce, had prevailed. And in that silence, the ranger carried a quiet gratitude, the memory of trust and miracle etched forever in his heart. The lioness padded slowly, her cub nestled against her chest as the pride gathered around. Their eyes were sharp, measuring, yet there was no hostility, only cautious curiosity. The plain seemed to hold its breath, the tall grass swaying gently in the light morning breeze. The ranger remained still, careful not to break the fragile trust. Every twitch of an ear, every flick of a tail, spoke volumes. The pride was learning that he meant no harm. And in their patience, he learned something equally profound, that connection in the wild is earned quietly, moment by moment. Soft whimpers from the cub drew his attention. Tiny legs kicked against its mother's warm side, wobbling as though unsure of their strength. The lioness nudged it with her nose, a gentle encouragement. Each careful step mirrored a silent conversation, life teaching itself the art of survival. The ranger reached into his bag, producing a small towel dampened with water. He laid it nearby, just in case, but made no move to intervene directly. The lioness's eyes flicked toward him. Not with fear, but recognition. In a single, fluid gesture, she returned her attention to the cub, settling it down on the soft earth. A soft chuff passed between the lioness and a younger male in the pride. The ranger noticed how they shifted positions, subtly forming a protective semicircle around the mother and cub. Their behavior was careful, almost reverent. Even in the untamed heart of the savannah, there was room for wonder. Hours passed, measured in small milestones, a tentative crawl, a first wobbling stand, the cub's eyes opening to the harsh brilliance of sunlight. Each motion was a heartbeat in the story of survival. The ranger's own breath fell in rhythm with theirs, silent witness to these intimate firsts. A sudden rustle from the nearby bush made him tense. The cub froze, ears tilting toward the sound. A lone antelope grazed a few dozen meters away, oblivious. The lioness growled softly, a sound low and calm, and the cub instinctively pressed closer. The ranger smiled under his mask of caution. Nature's lessons were never hurried. The sun began to dip, casting long, golden shadows across the plains. The pride started moving again, the lioness leading the cub back toward the deeper cover of the bush. Each step was deliberate, a dance of patience, learning, and instinct. The ranger followed at a careful distance, ensuring the path was clear, yet never intruding. When they finally disappeared into the safety of the trees, the ranger sank to his knees, the weight of what he had witnessed settling in. The air smelled of earth and wild grass, tinged with the faint sweetness of new life. He could still hear the soft echo of cub cries and lion chuffs, fading slowly. For a moment, he closed his eyes and let the scene linger. Trust had been extended, patience honored, and life reaffirmed itself in the quietest way. The pride silent or had left a mark, a reminder that compassion could bridge the untamed distance between species. And as the last rays of sun lit the horizon, he knew this was a memory he would carry forever. The morning was unusually still, the sun hanging low over the horizon, casting a pale gold across the dry grass. The lioness moved steadily, her cub waddling close behind. Each step seemed effortless, but the ranger noticed the subtle strain in her muscles. She had given birth only a day before, yet instinct drove her onward. A sudden, sharp rustle in the underbrush froze them all. The cub's tiny cry pierced the quiet, and the lioness tensed instantly, ears swiveling, muscles coiled like springs. The ranger's heart thudded in tandem, each pulse echoing the wild tension. He crouched low, voice barely a whisper, "Stay calm, it's okay." From the thicket emerged a jackal, teeth bared, eyes bright with hunger. It froze when it noticed the pride. For a brief, suspended moment, predator and prey measured each other. The cub instinctively pressed closer to its mother, and she responded with a low, rumbling growl that vibrated through the air. The ranger's eyes tracked every movement. His hand hovered near the small supply pack at his side. Though he knew any intervention had to be careful, he could not overstep nature's fragile balance. The jackal retreated slightly, evaluating its odds. The lioness shifted her weight, placing herself between the cub and the intruder. Every line of her body radiated quiet authority and protection. A soft exhale passed from the ranger. He moved one step closer, offering presence, not interference. "You've got this," he murmured, almost to himself. The lioness flicked her ears at the sound but did not flinch. It was a subtle acknowledgement, a silent trust that the human observer understood his role. The jackal, realizing the pride's resolve, slunk back into the shadows, its hunger deferred by the sheer will of the lions. The lioness's posture slowly softened, the tension leaving her frame in a visible sigh. The cub, encouraged, tried to mimic her movements, stumbling as it attempted to stand taller, braver than its size allowed. The ranger knelt in the tall grass, eyes following their every step. Dust clung to the cub's tiny paws, and sunlight glinted off its soft fur. He marveled at how quickly life adapts, from vulnerability to tentative courage, each instinct finely tuned to survival. Around them, the savannah carried on in quiet observation, the distant calls of birds, the gentle sway of branches, the faint rustle of insects. Hours passed with cautious exploration. The lioness tested the terrain, nudging her cub forward, teaching strength without pushing too far. The ranger mirrored her patience, giving space yet remaining close enough to guide if danger returned. The bond formed yesterday deepened today, unspoken yet palpable. As the sun dipped low, painting the grass in warm amber, the lioness finally settled under the shade of a large acacia. The cub curled against her belly, eyes half closed, breathing even and soft. The ranger remained at a respectful distance, letting the quiet victory of survival sink in. Even as he walked away, retracing his path to the ranger station, he could feel the tension of the morning lingering, a delicate mix of fear, relief, and awe. Nature had tested them, and life had prevailed. In the gentle balance between predator and protector, trust had grown, a fragile, unspoken alliance that neither time nor danger could erase. The morning air carried a faint sweetness of dew and wildflowers, but it did little to mask the sharp scent of dry grass. The cub had grown bolder, wobbling on uncertain legs a few meters ahead of its mother. Every twitch of its ears and tentative step held the promise of discovery, and the risk that came with it. The lioness trailed closely, her gaze never leaving the tiny form that mirrored her movements. Muscles coiled beneath her golden coat, poised to react at the slightest hint of danger. The pride moved nearby, their silent presence both reassurance and a reminder of the rules of survival. The ranger followed at a careful distance, heart in his throat. "Easy, one step at a time," he whispered softly. The cub paused, tilting its head at the sound, and then resumed, swaying like a sapling in the breeze. Dust kicked up from each step, and the sunlight highlighted the soft sheen of its fur, making the tiny creature appear almost ethereal against the vast savannah. Suddenly, a distant cry broke the morning stillness, a hawk, sharp and piercing, circling high above. The cub froze, instinctively crouching, and the lioness stiffened. The ranger's pulse quickened. Danger was subtle here, a test of instinct and attentiveness rather than brute force. The cub took another wobbly step, curiosity battling caution. Its small paw brushed against a patch of thorny underbrush, and it let out a surprised mewl. The lioness padded forward, nudging it gently with her nose, guiding without scolding. The pride shifted slightly, enclosing the pair in a protective semicircle, their low chuffs vibrating through the air. For the ranger, every movement became a lesson in patience. He could not intervene directly, only mirror calmness and offer silent assurance. The wind carried the faint scent of the wild, earth, grass, and the faint musk of the pride. Each sound and smell was a reminder that life in the savannah was a constant negotiation between curiosity and caution. Minutes stretched like hours as the cub explored, its confidence growing with each careful step. Then a rustle in the bushes caught the ranger's attention. A lone hyena emerged, its gaze sharp, teeth glinting. The cub froze mid-step, eyes wide. The lioness let out a low growl that reverberated through the clearing, a warning wrapped in authority and power. The hyena hesitated, evaluating its odds, then slunk away, retreating into the shadows. The cub stumbled but remained upright, encouraged by the lioness's calming nudge. The ranger exhaled slowly, the tension leaving his body in waves. As the sun climbed higher, warmth spilling across the plains, the cub tentatively ventured forward once more, tail swishing in unsteady rhythm. The lioness followed, pride surrounding them, creating a living shield of vigilance and protection. The ranger watched quietly, aware of the fragile trust he shared with these wild beings. By evening, the cub had taken confident steps across a wider stretch of grassland, returning each time to the safety of its mother's side. The ranger stepped back, letting the scene unfold naturally, carrying only the memory of resilience and patience. The savannah glowed in the soft amber light, a landscape of survival, trust, and the quiet triumph of life taking its first independent strides. The savannah was bathed in soft morning light, gold spilling across the tall grass, each blade glistening with dew. The cub, now steadier on its legs, ventured a few meters ahead of its mother, pausing occasionally to sniff the air or examine a tuft of grass. Its small, uncertain steps wobbled but carried the fragile determination of new life testing the limits of the world. The lioness moved with a quiet vigilance, her tail swishing, muscles taut beneath her golden coat. Every twitch of her ears, every subtle shift of her weight communicated lessons of survival. The pride followed in measured formation, silent guardians whose gaze was sharp yet softened by acceptance. Their presence enveloped the cub in a protective aura, a living reminder that freedom and safety often walk hand in hand. The ranger remained at a respectful distance, kneeling in the grass, his eyes tracing each movement. "That's it, keep going," he whispered softly, his voice barely rising above the rustle of the breeze. The lioness's ears flicked toward him, not in fear but in acknowledgement, a silent understanding of his careful role, observer, not intruder. The cub ventured farther, stepping over fallen branches and patches of thorny underbrush. The sunlight gleamed on its soft fur, highlighting the delicate pattern of stripes and shadows. It stumbled once, twice, then steadied itself, muscles flexing with effort. Each tiny motion echoed across the clearing like a heartbeat, a rhythm of curiosity and courage. A sudden rustle of the tall grass drew everyone's attention. A small herd of grazing antelope passed nearby, oblivious to the drama unfolding. The cub froze mid-step, ears swiveling, eyes wide. The lioness let out a low, steady growl, reassuring the cub while warning of boundaries. Instinct and patience danced together, human and animal witnessing a silent negotiation of caution and trust. Minutes passed, measured by tentative steps, soft chuffs, and the subtle shift of muscles as mother and cub navigated the world together. The pride moved with them, surrounding the tiny explorer, yet allowing freedom to extend just enough for learning. The ranger felt the quiet swell of awe, the raw, unspoken poetry of life asserting itself. As the sun dipped lower, spilling amber light across the plains, the cub returned to its mother's side, tail flicking in playful yet careful rhythm. The lioness lowered her head, nudging the ranger briefly in a subtle gesture of acknowledgement. There was no gratitude needed, only understanding, a mutual recognition of shared experience and respect. The pride began to retreat toward the cover of the distant brush. The cub followed, testing its newfound strength with short bursts of running and sudden stops to look back. Each step marked growth, independence, and the continuation of life's fragile cycle. The ranger stepped back, letting them disappear into the safety of the trees, carrying only the quiet memory of a world both wild and tender. The savannah glowed under the fading light, every shadow and sound a testament to survival, trust, and connection. The ranger lingered for a moment, letting the scene imprint itself in memory. The soft chuffs, the rustle of paws on grass, the tiny, determined cries of the cub. Life had prevailed. Trust had been earned. And in the gentle quiet of the wild, a new beginning had quietly unfolded.